As Patrick said and Jeff said, Revelation is the final book of the New Testament, and in which all evil is banished and the world is made perfect. In today's section of Revelation chapter 22, John is describing the paradise that will supposedly exist in the future. Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb through the middle of the street of the city. On either side of the river is the tree of life with its 12 kinds of fruit, producing its fruit each month. The leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. Nothing accursed will be found there anymore, but the throne of the God and of the Lamb will be in it, and his servants will worship him. They will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads. And there will be no more night. They need no lamp of light. They need no light of lamp or sun, for the Lord God will be their light, and they will reign forever and ever.
When I Am Among the Trees, a poem by Mary Oliver. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me, the trees stir their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say. And you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine.
I have a friend who is remarkably good at finding the spiritual around her. She is one of those people that sees a metaphor and applies it spiritually. She is an avid gardener who grows all kinds of flowers and veggies in her garden, some of which her grandkids manage to eat before they get into the house. And she spends the days of late summer and fall canning and pickling. She delights in sharing the harvest of her garden and the beauty of her shells. But that's not the only reason she gardens. She gardens as a spiritual practice. She has discovered that each season has lessons to teach, and the soil and seed, the plant and weed abound in metaphors rich with spiritual insight and lessons. The same thing happens for her when she weaves baskets. She is an avid basket weaver and actually leads workshops for churches around basket weaving that are filled with spiritual insight and lessons. About 20 years ago or so, she gave me a little book that, like today's sermon, is titled Lessons from a Tree. And when Pastor Brenda and I started planning for the season of creation, a new liturgical season that runs from September 1st to the Feast of St. Francis, October 4th, a new liturgical season rich with celebration of God's creation, we decided to go with the weekly themes that come out of Australia. And that made today Tree Sunday. And I thought, well, my sermon is basically written. I'll just find that little book I got 20 years ago and I'll quote from it. I have not been able to find that book. I have looked, spent quite a bit of time actually on vacation trying to find that book, and I haven't been able to find it. However, I have been able to find all kinds of online visuals and articles that have the same theme. The thing that the little book I couldn't find and that the articles I could find have in common is that they rely on finding spiritual insights and wisdom in metaphors. Take the visual that ran in This Week at Niles Discovery Church email that was mailed out Thursday evening. There are 6 pieces of advice attributed to Joanne Raptis that she gathered by considering trees. Stay grounded, connect with your roots, turn over a new leaf, bend before you break, enjoy your unique natural beauty, keep growing. Each of these lessons has merit. Consider stay grounded and connect with your roots. Now, I don't know what Joanne Raptis would have said about how those are different and how they are the same. For me, they are very connected. The trees are connected to the ground, as we know, through the roots, and it's through the roots that they draw water and nourishment. Roots also give a tree stability when so that they're able to bend when a storm comes without breaking and without being knocked over. As a tree grows up, as it grows, it has to also grow down, because the bigger a tree is, the more it needs the stability of its root system. For us, staying connected to all that formed us is important. We can draw spiritual nourishment by remembering our values, remembering who and whose we are. Remembering our values and remembering who and whose we are will help us to be secure as we grow and expand our reach. Remembering our values, remembering who we are and whose we are will give us stability when life's inevitable storms come. As I read through other lists I found online, a few of the lessons from trees particularly touched me, and that may say more about me in this moment of time than it does about the lifts themselves. But one lesson that touched me was this: be patient. When I've been in forests, whether it's a forest reclaiming land after a wildfire, or a forest that's reclaiming a meadow after the beavers have moved away, or in an old growth forest filled with old redwoods, I experience a sense of calm and patience. This picture is from New Hampshire, where you can see the remnants of an old stone wall that the trees have actually grown up in the midst of and helped knock over. There's a patience. Trees never seem to be in a hurry. And during this time of pandemic and climate crisis and social confrontation about racism and election campaigns, a reminder from the trees to be patient, I am finding that helpful. Another lesson is more open-ended. Support life. While it is in the nature of trees to do tree things, to grow and propagate their species, they also support other life. We can start by the very basic thing of photosynthesis. The trees breathe in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and breathe out oxygen, and that supports life of all of the animal kingdom. And while they're photosynthesizing, trees also serve as habitat for various animal species and even plant species. Plants will grow on them, and even fungus, but I will get more into fungus in just a minute. Reflecting on this aspect of trees makes me wonder how, when I do my human thing, my Jeff thing, can I do it in a way that supports life, not just my own, but the life of other people and other species? I was reminded about fungi during the latest episode of Science Friday, broadcast on KQED FM. Networks of fungi often connect trees and plants to one another, but scientists are just beginning to untangle what these fungal connections look like and how important they actually are. We know that trees don't stand alone. We know that, particularly in some species, they need each other literally to stand up. They support one another physically. And that if you go into a grove of these species and cut down some of the trees, you may destroy the whole grove because you've thinned them too much. We also now know that it's not just tree species themselves, but trees of different species and trees and other plants connecting to one another, communicating through fungi. They exchange nutrients, they give warnings about diseases, they simply help each other survive. The importance of community, and in fact, not just community, but of diverse community, is another lesson from the trees. Reflecting on trees in a time that is supposed to be just the first half of the wildfire season in California, reflecting on trees as the air is still heavy with particulate matter from the nearby wildfires, has had a surreal quality to it. I don't think I need to dwell on the devastation wrought by the SCU lightning complex fires just to the east of us. We know about the CZU lightning complex fires that destroyed around 1,200 buildings, burned through the Big Basin Redwood State Park. And yet somehow, as devastating as that fire first appeared to be in the Big Basin Park, somehow these trees, some of which are from before the time of Muhammad, have survived, at least so far. The wildfires here, just like Australia's wildfires last summer, have been made so much worse by climate change. Warmer air sucks moisture out of the soil and out of plants and makes it tinder dry. Rain patterns are disrupted, and things are only going to get worse unless we address climate change with radical action. And even if we address climate change with radical action, it may take some time for the climate system to turn like a big ship. It takes time for it to actually make a turn. Our scripture reading comes from the last chapter of the book of Revelation. John of Patmos, the writer of the book, paints a picture of paradise restored. There's a river flowing from the throne of God through the streets of the city of the New Jerusalem, and on either side of the river is a tree. It is the tree of life. It bears 12 kinds of fruit, one fruit ripening each month, so there's always a supply of food. And its leaves, we are told, are for the healing of the nations. About 2 weeks ago, a significant article was published on the New York Times website. The article was an in-depth look at the legacy of redlining and decades of racist housing policy, particularly focused on Richmond, Virginia, as they went in a deep dive in Richmond. In the 1930s, the federal government drew up city maps that literally drew red lines around different neighborhoods that were deemed risky real estate investments because the residents in those neighborhoods were mostly Black. This is Richmond, Virginia's map. You probably can't really read the legend, but the areas in green were considered the prime real estate, blue, less desirable, yellow, less desirable yet, and the red areas, literally with the red lines, were the Black neighborhoods. The authors found that the neighborhoods that have been redlined in Richmond in the 30s are much hotter on hot days today than the white neighborhoods are today. The primary reason, it turns out, is trees versus pavement. The white neighborhoods got trees. The red-lined black neighborhoods got pavement. And the trees cool the hot summer air. The pavement absorbs the heat and radiates it back out. And it's not just Richmond. In Portland, Oregon, there can be a 13-degree Fahrenheit difference, what they call a heat gap, between the low-risk white neighborhoods and the high-risk black neighborhoods on hot summer days. Yesterday was hot here in the Tri-Cities. Today is supposed to be hotter. Please drink plenty of water, stay hydrated. Can you imagine if it was 13 degrees hotter yet? When John of Patmos wrote his Revelation, I'm sure he thought the leaves of the tree of life were metaphorically for the healing of the nations. It may turn out that what we need for the literal healing of the nations is trees. A year ago this month, Greta and George explained what I mean.
This is not a drill. My name is Greta Thunberg. We are living in the beginning of a mass extinction. Our climate is breaking down. Children like me are giving up their education to protests. But we can still fix this. You can still fix this. To survive, we need to stop burning fossil fuels. But this alone will not be enough. Lots of solutions are talked about. But what about the solution that is right in front of us? I'll let my friend George explain.
There is a magic machine that sucks carbon out of the air, costs very little, and builds itself. It's called a tree. A tree is an example of a natural climate solution. Mangroves, peat bogs, jungles, marshes, seabeds, kelp forests, swamps, coral reefs, they take carbon out of the air and lock it away. Nature is a tool we can use to repair our broken climate. These natural climate solutions could make a massive difference.
Pretty cool, right?
But only if we also leave fossil fuels in the ground.
Here's the crazy part. Right now, we are ignoring them. We spend 1,000 times more on global fossil fuel subsidies than on natural-based solutions.
Natural climate solutions get just 2% of all the money used on tackling climate breakdown.
This is your money. It is your taxes and your savings.
Even more crazy, right now when we need nature the most, we're destroying it faster than ever.
Up to 200 species are going extinct every single day.
Much of the Arctic ice is gone. Most of our wild animals have gone. Much of our soil has gone.
So what should we do?
What should you do?
It's simple. We need to protect, restore, and fund. Protect. Tropical forests are being cut down at the rate of 30 football pitches a minute.
Where nature is doing something vital, we must protect it.
Restore. Much of our planet has been damaged.
But nature can regenerate, and we can help ecosystems bounce back.
Fund.
We need to stop funding things that destroy nature and pay for things that help it.
It is that simple. Protect, restore, fund.
This can happen everywhere. Many people have already begun using natural climate solutions. We need to do it on a massive scale.
You can be part of this.
Vote for people who defend nature.
Share this video. Talk about this.
All around the world, there are amazing movements fighting for nature. Join them.
Everything counts. what you do